spoiler alert, it's still just computers. It's zeros and ones. It's technology. We can make it do anything. But the client, what do you really want? Right. What does success look like? Not just better. It takes 3 minutes to onboard a client instead of 20. Right. Okay, now we got it. Now we can do a thought partnership and figure out how do we do that with some of this new tech.
This is Small Business Celebration, where we introduce you to successful small business owners at their place of business so that you can learn something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business and get your next big breakthrough. Chat AI, how do you start a second business under the cloud of your first business?
I do not know, but producer Emily says you should start the show.
Welcome to another fantastic episode here on Small Business Celebration. We're going to be talking about starting a second business under the cloud of your first business. We're also going to be talking about what to do when reality sits in against your business's vision. And to guide us through all this is Damian, the owner of Linean. Welcome to Small Business Celebration.
Michael, thanks for having me. Good to be back with you.
For Visioneers who don't know who you are you and what is it that you do?
My name's Damian. I'm originally born in a town called Tehachapi here in Kern County. I've been working as an entrepreneur for all my life with a couple small exceptions. Most recently, I was the Chief Economic Development Officer for the County of Kern, and earlier this year left that, and I'm back here in the entrepreneurial land and glad to be here.
It's wonderful to have you here because, like you mentioned, you were once on before with a different company that you had, and when you went to the county, what was it that you did for the County of Kern?
I was in this really unique role called Chief Economic Development Officer. Somebody called me and said, would you like to come do this? And I said, what is, I had to Google, what does
right.
the Chief Economic Development Officer, and so basically what I was doing is a couple things. Injecting private sector mentality into the county government.
Wow, right? That's a steep climb.
It was fun, right? It's a little bit, round peg, square hole,
right.
But also kind of trying to be a little bit of a change agent and just helping connect business needs with the county government. I mean, Kern County's awesome. We're a fantastically diverse, economically vibrant place. We've got our headwinds, right? So my job was helping the county government engage with businesses in kind of a new way. And so it was great. It was, about 2 years, and I loved every minute of it.
And yet, you couldn't stay out of the entrepreneurial world.
I knew to get back on your show, I have to start another business. So as soon as this episode's over, the third, I had to have a master plan to get back with you. No, yeah, I love doing the public service. The second time in my life I've worked for the government. I love doing the public service job. But yeah, the call of the entrepreneurial life.
You've been in both worlds. And what was it that said, I'm just, square peg in the round hole. I got to be my own boss.
I love being part of the county. And, my position was always, in my mind, and I think the county's mind, a temporary, it had a time span, right, to come in and do some things. So I came in, I felt like mission accomplished. And so I said, what do I want to do next? And I really found myself thinking about creating jobs, creating more technology vibrance in our county, and joining, forces with all the other, entrepreneurs doing interesting work. That's who I am, and it's fun to be back, right? It was nice to take a different path for a couple years, and then I'm just delighted to be back in the entrepreneurial land with you and so many of my friends.
Why the name Linean?
In my history of building systems and solutions and companies, the big thing, that the difference maker between success and not success, alignment. Getting your people, your processes, your technology all aligned with the outcomes that you want. Linean is kind of a play on the word alignment. That's how I came up with it. And the .com was still available, so that was the sign.
Win-win.
Yeah, that was the sign.
What does Linean do?
We are a technology services firm, and what we're really focused on is helping organizations adopt and implement new technology to help their organization run better. Most of that right now centers on artificial intelligence, right? Yeah, so we help companies stabilize, technology operations at times, kind of get a state of how things are working, and then use artificial intelligence and other new technologies to help the organizations run better.
Artificial intelligence is the buzzword. And is all artificial technology just simply advanced algorithms and large data sets and large computers crunching all this information? Or is there the idea that this is the spark of life?
Several years ago, the big breakthrough, right, was when some of these companies, the first one out of the gate was OpenAI, right? They were the biggest. They're not the only, but they were the biggest to make headlines on Main Street America with their tool, right, ChatGPT. So that started, a cascade of new innovations from other companies like Meta and Google or Alphabet and Grok from X and all these different players. At the end of the day, it's huge computers with massive amounts of data and new methods for processing that data that we call AI. Now, is it a thinking entity? No. Will it become that? I don't know.
Sure.
5 years ago, if you would have asked, will AI be able to do A, B, and C, that like we use it today, a lot of us would have said, nah, maybe.
Right.
But no, it does not have AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's not a thing. These are not thinking, feeling systems. It's data, and it's a special kind of data.
What problems are often overlooked that AI systems can fix?
Anything with data, right? People are opening constantly spreadsheet A and spreadsheet B and sort and copy and paste. Technology can do that. The inverse, though, is people think even the greatest technology in the world, it cannot solve your process problem. In order to use AI, you have to have some data. You have to know what you want the outcome to be. If you come in and go, well, we have this data and that data, and we just want it better.
Right.
There's no AI in the world that can do that. You need somebody to go, well, what's better? Well, it means this report's on time. Well, what's on time? Well, I don't know. Just sooner than I get it now. Okay, let's dig in. And then as you trace the thread back and go, okay, so the process you want is this, then you can use AI. And then you get out of the business of copying and pasting and email and sorting and data transfer. You can automate all that quickly now. But until you know what good looks like, all the AI, all the data in the world doesn't matter.
Last week's episode, we had Dr. Rangel on, a chiropractor. One of the things that he talked about was creating systems and processes, especially when you're in years 3, 4, 5 of your business, you're beginning to figure these things out. Where do you begin? And how you go through. It sounds like what you're talking about with AI is once you have done like what Dr. Rangel did and created an outline, you can use AI to fill in the holes.
Yeah, and to automate. Right, to automate those processes. So, if our friend Dr. Rangel, the chiropractor, says, here's the checklist of onboarding a new patient, right? Well, now that he's got it written down, he's got people to do it. They've got to open a system and put some data. Maybe there's another system or some other system. Well, he's got the process. That's the hardest part. The AI, spoiler alert, it's still just computers. It's zeros and ones. It's technology. We can make it do anything, but the client, what do you really want? Right. What does success look like? Not just better. It takes 3 minutes to onboard a client instead of 20. Right. Okay, now we got it. Now we can do a thought partnership and figure out how do we do that with some of this new tech.
And you still have to take a red pen to this entire process that the AI has created to proofread it, just to make sure it is exactly what it is that's supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you have a physician that's putting data into an electronic medical record system and then wants a nightly report of how many people showed up or didn't, or what are the most common injuries or conditions from the last 30 days, you got to ask the right question. And then with AI, we can expose the answers really quickly, or move data from place to place, or automate different things. But until we have the right processes in place and understand what good looks like, all the technology in the world won't fix a broken process.
And if you've used natural learning for your business and it's expanded and grown to the point that you want to get a new house, might I suggest you reach out to Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier Agent with Watson Realty, born and raised and never left Bakersfield. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1@icloud.com today. And Visioneers, if you've got a question, you've got a thought, something you'd like to learn about here on Small Business Celebration, reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and let us know. Your question could appear here on Small Business Celebration, just like Ollie, who asked, after closing our business, I'm feeling eager to start something new. How did you reflect on what worked, what didn't, without letting your previous experience cloud your judgment?
Yeah, this is my third business, really second kind of notable one, but this is my second time at bat. First go around with Stria was an awesome experience with my partners. We sold that. The sale could have gone a lot better, right? That was that's for a different podcast episode maybe, but we sold, moved out, and I went to the government life and then decided to start again. And I'll tell you, it's much easier the second time around because you have the experience, right? For me, much like starting the first two businesses I've started and then this third, it's not so much of an option. It wasn't a question, should I, shouldn't I? It's just a recognition, oh, this is what I am kind of here to do, so I'm going to go do this.
But the tendency is that when you're going into the second or third time around, is you see something that immediately raises a red flag. And you're tempted to say, no, don't do that because it didn't go well the last time or two. But this time around, it may be better or different, but you're still holding on to that baggage of what happened the first two times.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do spend a lot of time early in your career, any industry, but especially entrepreneurship. You figure out over the first few years what doesn't work.
Right.
So you kind of have a list, right? What doesn't work? Well, there's certain deals that just don't work. There's certain approaches, that just don't work. And so you cut those off at the list. And you when those opportunities come before you, at least for me now, at this go around, you kind of look at it and go, oh yeah, no, I've seen this before. I've seen this movie before, and I'm not interested in seeing it again. So I think that knowledge is important, but also like life, business, life, relationships, parenthood, all the things that we go through as humans, a lot of our worries never come to pass. We spend countless hours and calories thinking about what if, and most of it never happens. Occasionally it does. And in many cases, the big problems that hit us, square in the shin, we didn't think about. They just showed up. And so I think the maturity of somebody in their later years as their professional life doing a startup like I'm doing, you have that experience. Maybe you might call it wisdom. I think it's more just battle scars. You go, a lot of the stuff I worry about probably isn't going to happen, and if it does, I'll deal with it. At the same time, recognizing, I've seen this scenario. Let's not go there, right? This is not going to work out well. And also, huge joy now is being able to share that with first-time entrepreneurs as they're thinking. I get some calls in my role as entrepreneur in residence for Current Venture Group. People will call and say, "What about this?" And it's like, "Okay, here's a thought," right? And so, you can share that experience.
When you started your career, you worked for the county. Then you left the county, went into the private sector, and then you went from the private sector back to the county, and now you've left the county, back to the private sector again. After you'd been in the private sector, why did you want to go back to the county?
I love being of service. I really do. And so, as an entrepreneur, as a company, we serve clients. That's all we do. We only exist because we can solve a problem for our clients. In the government, we had a lot of clients. Every resident, all million people in Kern County were our customers. So it was kind of great to have so many customers. Now, in a small business, you have a lot of flexibility. How can you solve this problem? Now you still have limited resources, but unlimited problems. How can you solve problems for clients? The government, there's a lot more rules around how you can solve. You can't just willy-nilly go, oh yeah, you're right, that street is a little dirtier than the other street. Let's just clean that twice today. I mean, there's federal, state, county regulations, budget. So it's much more constrained. It's exciting because you have problems that need solutions and you have resources. You can solve a lot of them. So that's the similarities. But in the entrepreneurial world, there's a lot more flexibility. And that's the piece that I really enjoy about being in the private sector.
Was it because there was initially more stability in going back to the public sector that drew you there until you got the entrepreneur bug to bite you back again?
That's a good question. I think the stability, the pace, the depth of work were all attractive. It was by no means an easy job. You've got unlimited amount of problems and 1 million customers, right? So being a public servant is a tough job, but I really enjoyed being part of a large team with lots of thought partners. And so it wasn't that it was easy, but it was a nice place to go and exercise some different muscles for a couple years.
And then the adventure awaits.
And then the adventure awaits. The siren song of the entrepreneurial life. I really thought when we sold the company, I moved, into the government, I'd be there for the rest of my career. I really had planned on that. But the entrepreneurial itch, I just couldn't, I couldn't ignore it. It wasn't a choice. It's just like, oh, this is who I am. For better and for worse. I mean, trust me, plenty of friends and family are like, dude, why are you doing this again? But
what are you, nuts?
Yeah, no, totally. But also a lot of them go, yeah, we knew you weren't going to be in the government. We knew you weren't going to be in the government very long.
I was in that camp. I knew you weren't going to be there.
I thought I'd be there for 20 years. I really did. I'm like,
no.
I'll be there 20 years because I really did enjoy it. But this is the adventure, right? Like the government's great. It's a great job, a lot of perks, a lot of benefits that you love as a servant heart, a guy that wants to be of service. It's a great place to be. But I always feel like I'm inside this great party. You're in the government. It's pretty secure. Not totally secure. Pretty secure. Right. I'm looking outside the window of this great party, and all my friends, like you, are playing stickball in the street, and it's rainy and it's cold and it's dirty. And, drinking out of the hose. You're not inside with a punch bowl and the cake. Why would you want to go out there? But if you want to be out there with your buddies, that's all you want to do. It doesn't matter that it's raining. So for me, getting back out into the wild was, that is the adventure that I choose to take.
And that brings us to the Visioneer game. Now, Visioneers, if you're not familiar with the way the game works, I have a random word generator here on my phone. I have no idea what words the random generator is going to create, which, by the way, is an AI, but neither does our guest. And our guest has to take each of 3 words that I give him and somehow associate them with his business. Now, because this is an AI, and you're in the AI world, if you don't get these 3 words right and you don't associate them with your business, the entire AI world and your business will be destroyed.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Strap me in. Strap me in.
Your first word is tidy.
Entrepreneurs, business owners, everybody in business, they think about their processes as being streamlined, efficient, tidy, right? AI and service companies like Linean can help you make your processes tidy. And oh, by the way, tidy up your data by normalizing it, getting rid of data that doesn't make sense, doesn't matter. So tidy is a great word, and Linean helps companies use AI to keep processes and data much tidier than they would otherwise be.
Congratulations, that's
all right.
one for one.
One down. That was
down.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Getting warmed up.
Your second one is incident.
Incident connotates something that isn't good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Incident is bad. So in evaluating a critical incident within a company, using AI to analyze what led up to and precipitated the incident would be very useful.
Nice, that's 2 for 2. Well done, you.
All right.
We're down to our 3rd word. Galaxy.
Galaxy. Oh, that's a good one. Galaxy. Well, that'd be a good name for a company. So maybe that, my next company, Michael, will be Galaxy. I think of galaxy as, I guess that means things orbiting around, right? A center point, in our case, the sun. And I think the galaxy of data that customers live in, the single source of truth, right, can be created, right? The center of your data galaxy can be managed using a lot of AI tools. So galaxy is a great term for an AI practitioner like me.
That's 3 for 3. Well done, you. The AI world is solved. And by the way, you could actually create an AI program called Galaxy. So it would be Galaxy by Linean.
Hey, you get a bonus point. Bonus point for the host.
Isaac Asimov infamously came up with the 3 laws of robotics. Do we have yet the 3 laws of AI?
I don't think we have the laws yet. There are ethical considerations. AI and the fundamental technology that runs this thing we call AI, it's built by humans. Right. So there is bias. And I'll use a great example. There's a platform called DeepSeek, which comes from a Chinese company that is controlled by the Chinese government.
Right.
And if you ask that chatbot about the incidents of January 6th at the Capitol, it will tell you what happened, why it happened, and give you some interesting historical context. If you ask it about Tiananmen Square, the Chinese student protest in the 80s, it will not tell you why that happened. It will not speculate. It will say, we don't talk about that. You ask the same questions to OpenAI, get different answers. They'll tell you about both incidents. Claude, right, from Anthropic will give you similar answers, right, about both incidents. So the point is, they're not infallible. They're made by humans. They have implicit and explicit bias. And so we have to be smart about how we use this. It's like when Google Maps came out, if you followed it to a T, even still, it'll take you down a dirt road off a cliff sometimes if you're not careful.
Right.
AI is no different. So I think the laws are, if there is a golden rule in AI right now, buyer beware. Research and fact check and test this data before you, call it good to go, because it is fallible, very fallible in many cases.
How do you foresee AI changing the job market?
It will change every job over the next few years, just like the internet changed every job.
Right.
I think it's a bigger change. I equate AI more to the indoor light bulb than to the internet, right? So it will change everything over time, right? Just like indoor electricity and the indoor light bulb has changed everything over time. Now we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the magic that we could be filming this in the middle of the night. We're not, it's in the middle of the day. But the magic of indoor electricity, we just take it for granted. And by the way, nobody says, oh, we're an indoor electricity company. No, I mean, you have electrical contractors who do great things to rebuild, buildings and to create wonderful infrastructure. Like, it's just everywhere all the time. And that's how AI is gonna be. There won't be AI companies necessarily. Everyone's an AI company. And if you're not, the people behind you who figure it out will take all your customers. So it's everywhere very quickly. So it will change every job, and those companies that embrace it will succeed or have a better chance to succeed. And those, in my experience, those that reject it and say it's a passing fad and they're anti-AI, whatever that means, can be in big trouble. It's like being anti-electricity. Okay, that's fine, but be prepared to live in the dark.
One of the things that I've noticed is that there's a lot of the larger companies that are trying to interface with customers and clients with chat bots and that sort of thing. It's getting better, but it seems still very clunky. And for a lot of us, that's outside of ChatGPT and asking, what's the trending flavor of Fruit Loops this week? How is that technology evolving and changing? And is that something that's going to improve fairly soon so that customer service and a lot of other things that are employee heavy can be helped mitigated so that we can have a more streamlined business?
It's a great question. There's AI, right? Turing came up with a question, right? The Turing test. If you're talking to a computer and you don't know it's a computer, that's artificial intelligence. That was his test. We're not there yet, right? Especially when you go to a big company and you're on the website and you start chatting with the virtual agent. And it's like, this is not helpful, right? It's still clunky.
Right.
It's gonna get better. Will it be to where you don't know it's not a human? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, but will it be able to answer questions more accurately, quicker? Yes, because the way it's getting better is by being used. This data, these interactions, when somebody finally just clicks out of that window or starts cursing or says operator, 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 exclamation point, it's logging that and it's knowing, oh, I did not do well.
Right.
Then there are humans in many cases looking at those logs going, okay, we did not perform. Now this one, 3 questions, 3 answers, they said thank you and they were done. How do we make everything like that? So these, data scientists are looking at this every day because companies would rather pay a computer to do that. And they're always polite. I mean, they're not tired, they're not grumpy, there's not a dog in the background barking. So it is a win-win for consumers and companies, but yeah, there are still many instances where it's not as good as we'd like it to be.
For those of us that don't know, what is natural language processing?
NLP, right? That is the ability for these computer systems to take in your text and do something with it and give you back other text. So when you're typing in, when is my flight to Baltimore on an airline website, it's NLP that's processing that and then using that data to query another data set and then give you an answer. So it's computers inferring what you mean with the text you write.
So this is you putting in information into AI so that AI can talk to another AI to get the information that the AI needs in order to respond back to you.
That's kind of, yeah. It's it really, NLP, at the end of the day, it's the ability to process human language in a way that allows a computer to give you a response that is useful. And by the way, we're really tempted with ChatGPT and Grok and Claude and all these chatbots they make us think that they're thinking, right?
Right.
We really do think
Right.
they care. It's important for everybody to realize it's really something different. It is, in my opinion, one way to think about AI. It's the world's greatest prediction engine. It can predict things, what to say back to you based on what you input, because it studied the entirety of the human language, all printed text, over and over and over again across all languages many times. So this essentially, it looks for patterns, right? And so when you say, write me a paper on Shakespeare, it's read every paper that's ever been written on Shakespeare that's available in the public domain. So it can predict what it ought to say based on history of what it's looked at, but it's not thinking in a kind of the simplest terms. It's a very fancy prediction engine. What's the next word? What's the next letter? What's the next thought, right? And then it puts that on the screen, and it seems like you're talking to an entity that's thinking. It's not yet.
And that brings us to our second Visioneer question, also brought to you by Mike Saba, a Zillow Premier Agent with Watson Realty. Born and raised and never left Bakersfield. Give Mike Saba a call at 661-203-8406 or reach him at mikesaba1 at icloud.com today. Visioneer Anna Marie asks, My partner and I are at a point in our business where we're testing our vision against the reality and beginning to question its validity. How did you approach the situation?
I think healthy skepticism and questioning things every day is a fundamental benefit to entrepreneurs. We don't do it because it's enough. Personally, I get so passionate. I see a vision with such clarity. It must be true. It must be right.
Right.
Nobody's buying that thing.
Right.
We'll get there eventually. The data doesn't lie. If you're pitching something, you go, we're going to try this for a month or a year. At that point in time, you got to have a checkpoint and go, okay, is this vision that we had for the world's next bread slicer really working? We've sold 0. Well, you got a cool hobby. Time to repivot and look at things through a clear lens without emotion, which is hard to do when it's your baby, right? Your business. It's hard to do. It's super important. So I think questioning everything and tweaking and re-questioning is how business scales and becomes great.
And yet, we all go through periods of self-doubt. Whether or not our vision, it just doesn't seem to be lining up with reality, but we just can't let it go because we're doubting ourselves when the vision is actually pretty sound. How did you work through that?
I think in moments of doubt, and I have, doubts and imposter syndrome just like all humans do, I think it's important to go back and say, okay, what am I doing this for? I'm doing this for the adventure. I'm doing this to make a buck. I'm doing this for whatever reason. And go back to the why, right? Simon Sinek has a great book, Start With Why. And so I think going back frequently to the why is important, right? And also fact checking your why with, is it working? And at what point in time do I need to pivot, right? You hear all that, it's tough. It's not like you can say, well, just try for 62 days and then if it doesn't work, you pivot. No, because there's a million examples of somebody going, yeah, I said 60 days, but on 63, we got $1 billion contract. Everybody, especially entrepreneurs, we're just waiting. There's one more phone call. It's the juice. It's the excitement. You're one phone call away from $1 million every day. It's cool, right? But having a fact check, well, I'm running out of money and I really don't know if I can raise any more. What can I do to bring in some cash? How can I pivot and still stay close to my vision and close to my why, but tweak it. Don't abandon it. Tweak it to get a little bit more success. That's the name of the game. That's entrepreneur life. And it's as much art as it is science. But data, how much did we sell? How much did we make? How many customers did we talk to? That matters. That is a North Star along with the why.
It's no secret that there are business owners that are struggling right now. What do you say to those business owners to inspire them and let them know that not all hope is lost?
It's a tough life. And I like to remind entrepreneurs, this is the life we chose. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. You don't have to do it. It's okay if you decide to not be an entrepreneur anymore. No shame in that game. You did it. You had the adventure of a lifetime. But if you're going to stay and keep doing that, recognize these are your choices. And part of the fun is sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it doesn't work. But you got to keep pivoting, keep bobbing, keep weaving, keep grinding, work hard, be ethical. And whether you make a ton of money or no money, you're on the adventure, that you are the captain of your own ship on a great adventure. So lean into that. Remember, you're doing something really hard but it's really meaningful. This whole country is built on the concept of entrepreneurship. What are we without entrepreneurs? We're nothing. So I think that it's a noble, valuable adventure that's fraught with risk and riddled with failures. But on occasion, you have a great time. On occasion, you break through the noise and are successful. And so it's the journey that I think entrepreneurs should lean in on during those moments of doubt.
Jim, this has been a real treat. Thank you for joining us here on Small Business Celebration.
Michael, thank you for having me. My pleasure as always, and it's nice to be with you and the Visioneers once again.
Thank you. And if Visioneers want to learn more about you and Linean, how do they do that?
They just go to linean.com, linean.com, and all of our information is there, and we're on a mission to solve many problems for our customers using this advanced technology. So we'd love to hear from all the Visioneers who we can collaborate with, chat with informally, or help in any way.
After a brief message from Planned Exits, I'll be right back with my final thought. Be free to replace me with somebody else.
Private equity and national company roll-ups are beginning to be seen in Kern County. Many pest control companies and auto body repair shops have been acquired by national players. If you want to prepare your business for an opportunity of a strategic sale, please visit plannedexits.com.
Feel free to replace me with somebody else. Not that long ago, I was at a roundtable discussion with a bunch of business owners and visioneers, and there was this one particular business owner who was lamenting the fact that it didn't matter what they did, they were going to lose a customer. Their personalities just weren't meshing, their team wasn't meshing, their products just didn't quite align. The problem was that this customer for the business owner meant a lot to their business. And as they continued to go on about the challenges that they had, across a table, there was a Visioneer who gave him a wry grin, leaned back in his chair, and chuckled. Alarmed, the business owner looked at him inquisitively and asked, "What's so funny?" To which the Visioneer smiled and said, "I used to think that until I got to my 1,000th customer." The business owner puzzled and said, "Excuse me?" To which the Visioneer said, "You're not going to mesh with every customer. In fact, your sales team is probably going to alienate people. But those that you do mesh with, those that you do click with, you're probably going to have that customer for life. They're going to become your most loyal and ardent fans. And who would you rather have? Those that are loyal and ardent to you, those that will buy anything that you have to offer them because they know that you're going to be in their best interest to help them be successful? Or do you want people that are just going to be nothing but a thorn in your side till the cows come home?" That's when the business owner became a Visioneer, smiled and said, "I get it. Be free to replace me with somebody else." I hope you enjoyed our conversation this week here on Small Business Celebration, and I hope you learned something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business. And we'll see you here again next week when we celebrate another small business making a big breakthrough.
At the end of the day, it's huge computers with massive amounts of data and new methods for processing that data that we call AI. Now, is it a thinking entity? Will it become that? I don't know.
Sure.
5 years ago, if you would have asked, will AI be able to do A, B, and C, that like we use it today, a lot of us would have said, nah, maybe. And what we're really focused on is helping organizations adopt and implement new technology to help their organization run better. Most of that right now centers on artificial intelligence, right? Yeah, so we help companies stabilize, technology operations at times, kind of get a state of how things are working, and then use artificial intelligence and other new technologies to help the organizations run better. Somebody to go, well, what's better? Well, It means this report's on time. Well, what's on time? Well, I don't know, just sooner than I get it now. Okay, let's dig in. And then as you trace the thread back and go, okay, so the process you want is this, then you can use AI. And then you get out of the business of copying and pasting and email and sorting and data transfer. You can automate all that quickly now. But until you know what good looks like, all the AI, all the data in the world doesn't matter.
Last week's episode, we had Dr. Rangel on, a chiropractor. One of the things that he talked about was creating systems and processes, especially when you're in years 3, 4, 5 of your business, you're beginning to figure these things out. Where do you begin and how you go through? It sounds like what you're talking about with AI is once you have done like what Dr. Rangel did and created an outline, you can use AI to fill in the holes.
Yeah, and to automate. Right, to automate those processes. How can I use AI to increase business? Research your customer segments, research your competition, research market opportunities, and you have the world's greatest, most intelligent research assistant sitting on your phone in one of the chatbots. The paid version, they all have deep research mode, and you can ask very specific questions about your customers and your industry and get very specific answers back that then you can vet, and then operationalize. Free version versus paid version of an AI chatbot. Free versions are fine for tinkering. Never, ever upload sensitive, confidential, proprietary data to a free version of anything, especially not a chatbot. They use your data to train their models to get smarter. There is risk that your data is being used in a way you might not intend. The paid versions all have security models that you can implement and keep your data private, much more secure. So always, for business, always use a paid version of a chatbot. 3 things every business owner should use AI to help with: responding to solicitations, RFPs, contract requests, proofreading agreements and contracts, brainstorming about business opportunities. Those are 3 low-hanging fruit every business owner can do tonight to help them run a more successful business. The biggest problem that companies have that could be solved by AI systemization is around the movement of data between systems. There's a tremendous amount of data that we're all creating every day. That data lives in silos, email accounts, spreadsheets, ERP systems, back-end systems. How do we make that data move and flow and educate us? That's what AI can do. So I came in, I felt like mission accomplished. And so I said, what do I want to do next? And I really found myself thinking about creating jobs, creating more technology vibrance in our county, and joining, forces with all the other, entrepreneurs doing interesting work. That's who I am, and it's fun to be back, right? It was nice to take a different path for a couple years, and then I'm just delighted to be back in the entrepreneurial land with you and so many of my friends.
Why the name Linean?
In my history of building systems and solutions and companies, the big thing, that the difference maker between success and not success, alignment. Getting your people, your processes, your technology all aligned with the outcomes that you want. Linean is kind of a play on the word alignment.